This episode of Midco Sports Magazine is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Hello and welcome to an all-American edition of Midco Sports Magazine. 3 stories this month that in some way pay tribute to the USA. We have a skinny high school kid from Britton, South Dakota, who has gone on to become an actual All-American on the football field at South Dakota State. And a brutal but beautiful bike trek over 100 miles through the Badlands in western North Dakota. But we start with our national anthem and a man from Fargo, North Dakota who can belt it out with the best of them as he travels all over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Here's Brian Shawn.
Before the tip-off, first pitch, drop of the puck, or the opening kick, Mark Linquist sets the tone.
Oh, say, can you see?
He concentrates on every word, every breath, and every note.
But every once in a while, while you're singing that 90 seconds and those 100 notes, it'll kind of occur to me that, I'm looking at the flag right now. And everybody in the stadium, 10, 12, 30, 40, 50,000 people, they're looking at the flag, and this is our moment to pay tribute to that. There's nothing like that.
Mark's road to America was anything but easy. He was born in Seoul, Korea, spending the first 8 months of his life in an orphanage until he caught a big break.
I got chosen for adoption. That's pretty fortunate, and then of all the places I could have gone, I landed in America. That's a win, right? That's a victory right there. And then once I landed in America, the Lindquist family, Gordon and Diane, my parents, and my sister Heidi. That's a pretty lucky start to life.
Mark grew up on a farm in Ortonville, Minnesota, learning from his parents. But the most important lesson was service.
Gordon Lindquist, my father, who served in the Peace Corps, would show us slides from his travels, serving in Malaysia, teaching villagers how to farm. He would teach my sister and I about the service that he provided to people all over the world.
After attending Concordia and Moorhead for a couple of years, the next journey was to Washington, D.C., following in his father's footsteps working for AmeriCorps. He served various nonprofit agencies in 12 different states, building homes, parks, and playgrounds. But it was his experience with the American Red Cross that changed him on the morning of September 11th, 2001.
We got planes down. It looks like in the Crystal City area by 14 Street, we all responded.
So there at Ground Zero at the Pentagon, I'll never forget those weeks, or days and weeks afterward, being able to be an American who's able to serve. I got to see ordinary folks like you and I do things that were heroic, pushing themselves to the limit, giving back, contributing to the cause, saving lives. And as a young kid, 20 years old, what a powerful thing to see.
He eventually moved back to Fargo, finishing school and then bouncing around various jobs, until he decided it was once again time to serve in a different capacity, joining the U.S. Air Force at age 26. He was based in Hawaii working for the National Security Agency, until show business came calling, sort of.
Who knew that you could join but then take part in an entertainment troupe? So I applied for this special duty once I was a sergeant in the Air Force, and I got to entertain troops all over the planet, 22 countries and 38 states, for 250,000 troops and their families at basically every major Air Force installation on the planet. And we did this Vegas-style 90-minute show. There's not much entertainment over there. You're at war. You're at a base with, dirt under your boots. And we could come and just for a brief moment, for a 90-minute show, we'd play some music. And as those troops would listen to that music, think about what music does for people. It transports you, it takes you away, right? That music reminds you of home. It reminds you of America. It reminds you of that there's something to life other than war.
Mark's love for the stage grew, and so did his interest in performing. He built a relationship with a television producer, making small appearances on the shows Lost and Hawaii Five-0, before making his big screen debut in the movie Battleship, where he sang the national anthem on the set.
I get a quarterly royalty check from Universal Studios. Just the other day, I went to the bank and I cashed it. $12.67 for my role in Battleship. And I go out and I buy lunch with that check, and it's the best meal of the quarter.
After 6 years in the military, Mark decided it was time to move back to North Dakota. He started singing the anthem for the FM Redhawks, then at University of North Dakota athletic events.
I said, wait a second. The University of North Dakota men's hockey team is like the best hockey team in America. If I can sing for them, well, who else could I sing for?
It led to more opportunities with the Minnesota Twins and Vikings, then to Omaha for the College World Series, and eventually all over the country, from New York to LA.
You got to be a pretty big name to even have the opportunity to sing a single note in front of 50,000 people at a time. As a singer, obviously that's something that is an honor, and that I want to do as often as I can. As a veteran, if you're going to get somebody to sing at your sporting event, why shouldn't it be a veteran? You know, why shouldn't it be somebody who can wear the uniform of our country and honor the song in that way?
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
Mark has no plans of slowing down, already scheduled to sing at 3 NFL venues this fall. But he has his eyes on an even bigger stage.
You can't tell me that if I'm 36 years old and talking to those teams, that it's not possible that one day we would sing the anthem at the Super Bowl. Wearing the uniform, representing the country. That's the goal and dream. And I think one day it's going to happen. When will that happen? I don't know.
The biggest event that Mark is singing at this fall is when the Chicago Bears play the Green Bay Packers. But maybe the most important performance is at Progressive Field in Cleveland before the Indians play the Red Sox on the anniversary of September 11th.
Up next, from small-town America to All-American on the football field at South Dakota State, the story of the humble beginning of a fabulous college football career.
Midco Sports Magazine on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back to Midco Sports Magazine. You never know what can happen when timing and circumstances and hard work all come together, and the young man in our next story is a perfect example of making the most of an opportunity. Here's David Brown.
For a man named Dallas, in a town called Britain, his location is out of the ordinary. For a man named after the Dallas Cowboys, on this day, he's playing a sport more associated with the Dallas Mavericks. And for a man on the cusp of the NFL, his first dream was the NBA.
I had two older sisters that both were in basketball and volleyball, and my mom was the coach for both of them. So I would go to all their practices, and as a young kid, I just wanted to compete too. So I think I was 5 years old when I had my mom enter me and a couple of my buddies in our first 3-on-3 tournament.
Growing up in northeast South Dakota, in a town of less than 1,500 people, sports were a way of life for Dallas Goedert. From soccer to swimming to track, the calendar was defined by the activity, not the weather. Dallas exceeded the most in basketball and football, but he thought the hardwood would be his ticket to college.
I could have went to D3 schools, probably walked on to a couple D2 schools for basketball, and from 10th grade to probably the start of my senior year, that's what I wanted to do. I liked basketball a lot more than football.
During his senior year at Britain Hecla High School, Dallas continued playing both sports. He still thought basketball was his choice for the next level, but one person in the stands noticed his football talent, and it set off a chain reaction.
I got a call from a guy named Carl Larson, who's a pastor in Millbank. He coached for us years ago, and he helps their high school team coach, and he told us about Dallas. We watched the film, and honestly, it wasn't the best quality film, and hardly ever is at a school that size. It's just budget-wise. And I went and watched him play basketball to try to get some evaluation or a better evaluation on him.
He said the biggest guy on the court likes to chuck threes and doesn't like to go down low and get physical, even though he's the biggest guy on the court.
Well, I saw a very gifted athlete. I didn't see, and I told him this, I didn't see as great an effort as I wanted to see. You know, he shot a lot of three-point shots as a 6'4", 6'5" guy, and I didn't think he chased the ball enough.
But he wasn't wrong. I didn't like to be down low. I like to be outside, shoot threes.
So a combination of word-of-mouth advertising, poor quality video, and an uninspiring basketball game naturally led to South Dakota State head coach John Stiegelmeier offering Dallas a walk-on spot as a tight end. There was just one problem. Another school had also noticed his football potential. Division II Northern State in Aberdeen, South Dakota offered Dallas a full scholarship, but he turned it down.
I think my parents thought I was crazy when I told them that I was going to walk on to SDSU having a scholarship at Northern, but one day I just woke up and felt like it was the right decision to play at the highest level I could.
After redshirting his true freshman season, Dallas was hoping to prove his worth as a walk-on. And when every other tight end had an injury during spring practice in 2014, he took full advantage.
It was just me taking all the reps in spring ball.
We called them Dallas shifts because it would he was supposed to line up on the right and he'd line up on the left and then have to move over before the snap. So, but it was really good for him too that you know, he got thrown to the fire and had to learn on the fly.
Over the course of the 2014 season, Dallas worked his way up the depth chart from third-string tight end to starter. He only hauled in 8 catches, but the SDSU coaches saw potential, rewarding him with a partial scholarship after the season and looking to increase his role for 2015.
Our coaching staff identified him as a difference maker, and those are guys we expect a lot of and can give that. And we kept throwing them the ball, they kept designing plays and formations, and he kept making plays.
Dallas's catch total rose from 8 to 26, and before the 2016 season, he received an 80% scholarship and was named to the Missouri Valley Football Conference's preseason first team.
We talked ahead of the season that how he's got to have at least 50 catches this year, you know, and kind of had that as the expectation for him. And you know, early in the season, he just was playing so well that it really just blew that out of the water.
It wasn't just the quantity of catches, but the quality. And it all started in the second game of the 2016 season against Drake.
That was Goedert, who snagged it with one hand for a touchdown.
The main thing I thought is, you got to be kidding.
Until I saw it on the replay, and then the whole stadium was just kind of quiet watching it. I'm just like, wow, I impressed myself. It was really cool.
The touchdown versus Drake was just one of several highlight reel one-handed catches for Goedert in 2016. Even though Coach Stig admits he would still prefer Dallas use all the tools available.
We would love him to use 2 hands, but again, sometimes physically you can't get both hands on it, and he's got that ability.
They always tell me to catch it with 2 hands, and usually, jokingly, I say, well, Terrence should throw me a better ball. If I can catch it with 2, I'm going to try. There's a few times where I could have, but one hand just got there quicker.
Whether it was one hand or 2 hands, Dallas was responsible for 92 grabs in 2016. Nearly doubling the preseason goal coaches set for him at 50. And just like word of mouth got Dallas noticed in high school, it's also working the same at SDSU. NFL scouts already have him on their radar for the 2018 draft.
Seeing more articles, where I am, where people say I'm going to go in the draft, what tight end they think I'm ranked. I definitely read all that stuff. I enjoy reading all that stuff. I think it's awesome to see, but at the same time, I don't want to let it get to my head.
I see Dallas being that type of guy, and if he has another great season, I see him having an opportunity.
I mean, I think the sky's the limit for him, and I think he can, you know, not only get to the next level, but be a great player there.
From Fridays in high school to Saturdays in college to possibly Sundays in the NFL, time has flown by for Dallas Goedert. And even though his path didn't involve basketball, his journey has been all about shot selection. A coach took a shot on him, and Dallas took a shot on himself.
And I think about that call by Carl Larson and the fate of how it all worked out, and I think life is like that. In this case, we are really blessed to have Dallas on our football team.
It's definitely something to think about. If he doesn't ever talk to Stig, maybe Stig never hears my name, and maybe I'm starting my 5th year at Northern State University, so it is kind of crazy to think about. Or maybe if I just don't even make the decision to walk on and go and take the scholarship, it's just, you just never know where you'd be. Hopefully I'd be having similar success at Northern, but you just never really know.
And joined by David Brown. And all right, Dallas now is finally on a full scholarship, but it wasn't until after last year.
Right, he'd been on partial scholarships after his walk-on season, and now after his record-breaking 92-catch season, finally on a full 100% scholarship.
All right, crazy. And he's a top prospect for the NFL, for pro football, as maybe the #1 guy at tight end, and he keeps up with this stuff, right?
Yeah, he freely admits he pays attention to all the draft rankings and the draft projections, but what he does now is, he admitted to me he watches guys like Rob Gronkowski, Travis Kelce, Jordan Reed on Sundays. If they have a good game, he'll look up their measurables, what they had in their 40-yard dash, what they had in their 3-cone drill, and he measures himself against those tight ends to hopefully have a nice career down the line.
All right, and we get to see him for one more year with the Jackrabbits.
One more year.
All right, thanks a lot, David Brown. When we come back on Midco Sports Magazine, an epic bike trek on the Maah Daah Hey Trail in the Badlands of North Dakota.
Midco Sports Magazine on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back. The Badlands of North Dakota, one of the most beautiful places in the country. And they're also home to one of the most brutal and breathtaking bike races in America. Here's Marty Mueller.
What sparks an adventure? A dream? An idea? How about a challenge? One that's designed to test you both mentally and physically. The Maah Daah Hey 100 is just that challenge. A cross-country bike race unlike any other, winding its way through the heart of the North Dakota Badlands along its punishing journey.
There's definitely some other ones out there that are equal as far as distance go, but like a point-to-point 100-mile event, you know, that tends to be a little more rare. And then just, yeah, what you get to go through out there, going through the Badlands, you know, it's, you know, again, completely exposed, but the features of the earth out there, and, you know, the rock structures you get to go through, you know, going through the river as well, prairie lands, grasslands, like it's got a little bit of everything as far as what the area has to offer.
Completed in 1999, the 144-mile Maah Daah Hey Trail is open to cyclists, hikers, and horseback riders alike. But every summer, hundreds of brave souls converge on the trail for one day to take on the race at its various lengths.
They have a race that goes the full 100 miles, and then they also have shorter segments that do 75, 50, and 25 miles. And so I've raced the 100 before and been just crushed by it. It's usually really hot out there because that's when it's driest. But this year we're doing the 25-mile version, and I'm taking the daughter with to experience the Badlands.
As if biking across the Badlands wasn't hard enough, Aaron towed his daughter Zoe along their 25-mile ride. A small price to pay when the reward is the experience of a lifetime.
You know, it's just sharing experiences. I think a lot of times we see a lot of cool things out there, whether it's wildlife or in the Badlands, they'll be able to show her like petrified trees and stuff. And so she loves all the sciencey nature stuff. And so it's just a way to get outdoors and spend time together.
Goals change from person to person. For Aaron and Zoe, it was taking in all the landscape had to offer. As for others, like DJ Birch, a chance for a better encounter with the Maah Daah Hey was up for grabs. After a brush with death, roughly 95 miles into the race, nearly cost him everything.
I came up 2 years ago to do it. Kind of didn't really know what I was getting into, just did minor research on the trail, and yeah, kind of went pretty big, was doing pretty well in the event itself. It was a super hot year that year. I think it was like 5-ish miles from the finish, which I had no idea, you know, like I thought I was probably closer than that actually at the time if I could have thought about it straight, but yeah, it was overheated, pretty much like blurry vision and black spots, and just, yeah, things were looking pretty bleak at the time.
DJ would find shelter in a cave just off the trail to recover. But not finishing wasn't on his agenda. So he picked up his bike and forged on, eventually making it to the finish line.
Huge willpower is usually what it takes to stay mentally in the game. Goes a long way, even after, you know, your body's gonna get physically beat up and hammered down, and to be able to stay strong-minded to work through that's pretty much the key, I think.
Mental strength goes a long way in events like these. especially when things aren't in your control. The 2017 contest was one of those times. Periodic rain dotted the area this race day, threatening to delay or cancel the event altogether.
There's so many sections that it's like walking on slime. Like, you can't get through it, like especially on the hills. Like, I've been out there hiking before when it's gone wet, and those buttes are they're impassable.
People can't clip in, pedals are filled with mud. Drivetrains don't shift, filled with mud. Clean them up, make it shift, all part of the race.
Yeah, I've literally dropped my bike and just like went walking off into the middle of the desert, like, what is going on here? Like, just kind of lost my mind a little bit over how treacherous the mud and how undefeatable it is. You know, it's like Mother Nature always wins, for sure.
Even though this year's event was shortened to just 50 miles, it didn't break the spirit of the competitors. Because in the end, it's about a whole lot more than just the race.
You're just pushing yourself, you know. I'm not a fast guy, but I can pedal a long time, and it's really about finding your limits and figuring out, can you do it?
There's a finish line coming for all of us, so there might as well be a few of them that we go and chase and we actually want to reach, right? So that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, set some goals, set something that maybe even thinks unobtainable, and see if you can actually reach it and go for it and see what you're made of. And hopefully, yeah, you reach a few of those finish lines that you want to finish before you actually reach that one that we're not going to be able to avoid no matter what.
Although weather did play a factor in this year's Maah Daah Hey 100, Aaron, Zoe, and DJ were all able to finish their respective races. These folks and many more just like them are keeping the spirit of adventure alive and well.
Well, before we go this month, the sports community and the state of North Dakota lost a great friend and a great voice recently. Gary Rogers died on August 12th, less than a month after he was diagnosed with brain cancer. Rogers was a volunteer firefighter in his hometown of Wahpeton, but he is better known as a broadcaster, calling games on the radio for more than 40 years.
I really enjoyed being in radio. I love being in the fire department, and hopefully the people that were listening to me felt the same way and enjoyed my broadcast. Yeah, just hopefully that everybody will think that GR did a heck of a job. Gary Rogers, good night and good sporting.
This has been Midco Sports Magazine, presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.